Hey everybody, this is Ron Taylor with Roughcut Overview. Today we're looking at chapter 26 of Acts. This is about Paul and getting on board a ship saying, man, I don't think we should take off here. And a series of events happens that causes the ship to be lost, and everything of the ship was lost except for the crew. There was no loss of life. What I want to bring out is, in the middle of this storm, God brings an angel and ministers to Paul and tells him what's going to happen. And the angel speaks ministry order over Paul and says, you have to go testify in Rome. It's a requirement. You have to testify in Rome. Not that Paul was saying, oh, I don't want to testify. That's not what I'm getting at. He's saying this must happen. And for that reason, you and this crew are going to survive. Okay. Now think about the parable of the sower, Matthew 13, Mark 4, Luke 8. Specifically Mark 4, when Jesus says, take heed how you hear, for the measure you meet, it'll be measured back to you. So if your hearing is equivalent of a tablespoon, you're going to get a tablespoon back. If your hearing is equivalent to a cup, you get a cup back. If your hearing is equivalent to a bulldozer, you get a bulldozer load, wheelbarrow load. Notice how much Paul heard. He joyfully reports to the crew and the leadership on the ship, everything's going to be fine. We're going to survive. We're going to have a hard time, and the storm's going to, because do you remember when I said we shouldn't leave and you left anyway? The ship, the load, those consequences, but no loss of life. And toward the end, he tells them, you need to eat and regain your strength, because you haven't eaten or anything. You've been in fear for your life the last, X number of days. I have to check. But my point here is to say, when Paul was given that word via the angel, his hearing was high. I want to say it was 100%, but I'm not going to touch percentages and such. But his hearing was high, and you can tell that the leadership of the boat had a certain measure of hearing. He heard and believed, and he gave orders to the prisoners and the crew who had another level of hearing. Their hearing was a little bit lower. So, one of the leadership wanted to ensure that no one escaped. But the hearing, their reaction to what was said from the divine realm indicates their level of hearing. Your actions, my actions, how much we trust in this finished work, this gospel, the finished work of Jesus Christ, how much we trust it is going to reflect how much we've actually heard it. How many times have you told somebody something and they say, yeah, and they walk away and do the exact opposite thing? You gave them instruction and directions, like, it's easier if you do it this way. And they're proverbially speaking, they're trying to nail the nail into the wood backward. They got the pointy part on top. Like, yeah, I'm hitting the nail. And you're like, no, you're doing it wrong. You want the flat end on top. Yeah, hit the nail. There's so much. Why is that? The parable of the sower is very enlightening on that, but there's a lot of going on the inside, the self-talk, the noise that we hear in the mind, the cares of this world, the lust of other things, the deceitfulness of riches. Is the person speaking actually, do they actually have my best interest at heart or not? Is this a trap? Should I even be listening at all? So all those are discussed in the parable of the sower. And we can see in this story of Paul in Acts chapter 26, where, to the degree the people heard and believed what he said, which was the word of God, that the seed of the word sprouted up in their hearts. And they said, okay, yeah, let's do this. Let's not do that. Let's do this. And while the ship didn't survive, while the cargo didn't survive, the word included that you have to land on a certain island. And there was Publius. And when he's made a fire and the aboriginals were there and they saw that Paul sitting there in the fire got bit by the snake, and he shakes the snake off into the fire, and they say, well, this man's a murderer. He survived the wrath of the sea, but justice has prevailed. And they're watching, waiting for him to die of the poisonous snake bite he got. And yet he survived and he lived and nothing was wrong with him. In the time that in natural economy he should have died, they said, he must be a god. Then Polybius, sick, he goes, ministers to him. And the natives see that this power to heal, this power of health, this supernatural health, is not just for Paul, that he can minister to other people. We have a healing meeting on the island, a certain island. The angel said you had to land on a certain island. So as we go through this life and we have the drops of the word, the Spirit of God says do this, the Spirit of God says do that. We read the word and the word comes alive to us in certain areas, in certain moments, in certain places of the text. And we take that to ourselves. To the degree we yield to it is to the degree we see manifestation of it. But in the wider scope of things, God is orchestrating. He's not the author of destruction, but he's working around our own destruction and the destruction of the fallen mind and the destruction promoted by the enemy. He's working around those things and working through those things to affect once again the establishment of redemption being so supremely higher than the fall.